fashions a kick back towards the wing for Lady. Left now, lines the mark. It's coming back. Ox is the biggest man there.
G'day guys, welcome to Red Time. Jared Barker, Mason Cox here for episode 9 today, round 13.
We're close to double digits, man.
Yeah, I said last week, I'm going to raise the bat at 10. You know what that means now as well, so it's going to be a big celebration next week. But we've entered June as well, which means it's winter, and you can feel it, that's for sure.
It's official. I've got the jacket on today.
Yes.
It's a bit chilly outside.
Yes, wet weather footy? Is that your thing, or do you prefer
No,
like
of course not. I'm 7 feet tall.
No, I know.
There's no part of wet weather footy that helps me out.
I'm just asking you a question. So you prefer the real smack bang middle of summer, 35 degree peak sun sort of day, do you?
Yeah, I like the shoulder season. So it's not like too hot, but just hot enough. And then you kind of, I don't know, it's like that good vibe of, maybe you go for a run and it's like just chilly enough.
Yeah.
When you start, it's a bit cold, but then you get into it and it's actually perfect.
Yeah.
That's the day. Yeah. Those are the days I love.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy the next couple of months of peak footy weather.
Well, we got bye week next week, and I'm headed to Gold Coast. So
True. That's what all you guys do. Just head up north, get the sun.
Sunshine.
Yeah. Who'd live in Melbourne? What a wonderful place.
I didn't say
what
this.
A wonderful
I didn't
place.
say this. Don't put words in my mouth. I don't know what you're talking about.
On the agenda today, there's a lot that's been making the news, to be honest. So we could have spoken about a lot of things. We're going to talk about players in the media, the face of the AFL, Greg Swann's top priority with his new gig at AFL House, and our Big Freeze costume rankings, some of our favourite moments over the year. We've got Big Freeze 11, which is just
awesome.
11 years.
Incredible.
That's just come really quickly.
Yeah.
So we're going to look forward to that one as well. Big occasion on Monday. We're going to start, though, with players in the media. So I know you're aware of what happened here. Adelaide CEO Tim Silver's apologised to Sydney for comments for comments made by Wayne Milera. Milera or Milera? I'm pretty sure it's Milera, but...
Yeah, this is a bit of fantasia kind of thing.
Yeah. In a post-game interview, so this is what he said. He labelled the Swans a bit of a rabble. I've got the quote here. You could sort of feel it as a group. They were sort of a bit of a rabble, just hearing them on the ground. He was obviously referring to just the way that Adelaide absolutely dominated them and how maybe unorganised the Swans were out on the ground. But my question for you is, where is the line for player honesty, and did he cross it?
Jeez. I mean, we talk about, I feel like this has been just beating a dead horse with this thing. Like, hey, let's have like players that have actual charisma and like can give their opinion. And then we go this and we're like, oh, nope, he said something. But let's be honest. I think if you're a Sydney Swans fan, what was the score? 131-41. I mean, that's not like it's not a great score, I would say, for Swans fans. So yeah, I think you would probably say it wasn't their best game. Is a rabble like a word that's, derogatory enough for someone to have to come out as a CEO to apologize for it?
I don't think so. It's not offensive.
No, it's not like you could say much worse things, believe me, that have been said about a game like that would get you in a lot more trouble. And like, I get it, you don't want to ruffle any feathers and stuff like that. But I mean, like saying, they essentially weren't their best on the day and they were a rabble. Like, are we really going to have to apologize for this? Like, at what point do we just say, look, hey, just zero personality, just kind of give the same PC answers and we'll just call it good. And then everyone is happy at the end of the day.
We want players and coaches to just be robots, mate.
No, yeah, exactly. And it's like, and then we go and the media is upset that we don't do enough. And it's like, come on, man. Like, well, I don't know. Sometimes, like, I get it. Like, players are, I guess before they interview and stuff, they're given a bit of a rundown, I guess, of what to say, what not to say, and kind of things that may have happened in the game or kind of how you should err on a certain side if there is a situation that happened that you have to speak on and things like that. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's like too disrespectful. I think you look back to the Bailey Smith's comments about going with the Bulldogs out there in Ballarat, was it? And
Ballarat don't pull 80K at the G.
I didn't see the Geelong CEO coming out and apologizing for that, which I thought was a way bigger statement than just saying someone was a rabble on the weekend that they absolutely pumped.
But equally as okay to say. Right?
Yeah, I think it was kind of fun, and it added a flair to the game. I guarantee you, probably at least a quarter of the people that watched that Bulldogs versus Geelong game probably didn't care until he said that, and they're like, "Oh, we'll see how this goes. We'll see who kind of goes up and see how many fights get started." And credit to him, he backed it up, but it added a bit of flair. It added something different to the game, and I think that's what we're all here for.
Yeah, I agree. I reckon we find it way too easy, or people in this competition find it too easy to apologise for things that don't need apologising for.
Yeah. Well,
and I think this is one of those things. There's obviously a line that you don't cross, but this I don't think is something that crossed the line at all. The game's better for it when we have players that are more open, more honest, showing a bit more authenticity. The fans enjoy it. I think it just makes the game a little bit more fun, a little bit more lighthearted.
It's like something that Dana White said whenever he came over here about Australian media. It's like they're the most like conservative people, but they just like you want to give it to you anytime there's one thing wrong. But then whenever you kind of fight back or say something back, they just say, "Oh, you're terrible." Blah. Yeah. And it's like I do agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And I think it's because there's essentially too many, talking faces out there sometimes in the media, as us as two people on the podcast talking trash, about football. Yeah. Maybe there's sometimes a little bit too many people. Not us, of course. But I think that's maybe one of the reasons you get so many different diversified, opinions on it is someone's always going to take one side and someone's always going to take the other. And you're going to be able to find whichever side you agree with and someone that's going to align with you.
Sometimes disagreeing is okay as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. But I don't think a CEO needs to come out and say, we apologize for a player saying something that wasn't even really that derogatory.
Well, what sort of media training do you guys get? I know you probably get briefed on before you head into an interview or something by the communications manager, but when you talk about media training, are you, what style of training is it? What does it look like? And then, are you conscious after you've done it about what you're saying in an interview?
I think it comes down to experience more than anything. Like, the more you do it, the more comfortable you are within it. But there's some guys that aren't comfortable in doing media, and you won't see them kind of doing the interviews and stuff like that after the game or in mid-game and things along that nature. But there's not a ton of. I think a lot of people always ask, like, "Oh man, you must have done a ton of media training whenever you first came here," and I'm going, not really. Like, I think we had maybe a person come in and say, "Hey, maybe scrape through some old Facebook photos that maybe aren't so flattering and maybe delete those from the account." But I don't think there was anyone that kind of sat us down and said, if someone asks you a question that is maybe trying to get an answer out of you that you don't want to say, how do you take an approach to handling that? Like, we're not, taught that in a scenario. Like, that's kind of taught through experience, I think. But I think there's definitely room for clubs to give a bit more of a platform for players to learn how to handle certain scenarios. So then whenever a situation like this does occur and whenever the media is asking for more characters out there, then they are able to handle that situation and scenario with the professionalism that the club expects, with also being able to give their personality.
Yeah. I think, you're right. The less we get players wanting to speak, the worse off the game's going to be.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, I think we need to encourage more authenticity. Moving on to the next topic. The boys actually spoke about this briefly on the Monday pod, but I want to bring it up with you as well because I'm interested in your take on this. We spoke about it last year as well. And I think it's worth bringing up again because it's not obvious. I don't think there's an actual obvious answer to this. So let me set it up for you. Because for so long in this competition, we had Gary Ablett Jr., we had Buddy Franklin, we had Dusty Martin, but there's no obvious heir apparent. We don't have a LeBron James. We don't have a Patrick Mahomes. And I also bring it up because of the current form of Bailey Smith. And I'm trying to wonder, is he the one that currently holds this mantle given his unbelievable start to the season? But who is the face of the AFL?
I think Bailey Smith is up there, but I think because he's swapped teams, I think he doesn't have probably the cut through as like a cult figure of a club, right?
Would that not help his case? It's a bigger club now too.
I do agree it's a bigger club, but if you look at Geelong, I think you probably think of a Paddy Dangerfield as someone who's been there for a long time that has the admiration and the adoration of their fans and everything else, right? Like Bailey Smith is earning that very quickly, obviously, given his form and everything else, but he's definitely part of that younger crew coming through. I think there's obviously the Harley Reid, Nick Dacos. That's kind of a generation, I think, of
they're the future faces.
Yeah, that are
it depends on the criteria as well, though.
Yeah,
like I've written down here talent, which you need to be a good player, marketability and popularity, social media following, your club status, team success. I've left out good looks, but it helps.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt, I'll tell you that.
He's not harmed by the long blonde hair.
Yeah. And I think like you look at Isaac Heaney, someone who's done stuff with like Christian Petrarca and Colgate commercials and things like that you see whenever you watch the football.
Well, Bailey's got the Cotton On affiliation.
Yeah, Bailey's got the Cotton On affiliation.
Works in favour.
I think there's a lot of different players that you think of. Like I wrote a list here. We've got Petrarca, Patrick Cripps, Isaac Heaney, Jack Ginnivan, the Wizard, Toby Green, Tex Walker. These are the icons of their club. Yeah. And some of them have been there for a bit longer.
Do any of those scream face? Well, when you think AFL, are those guys like the face that you think of straight away?
No, I don't think there's a single face you think of.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a player that's been as dominant as a Dusty or a Gary Ablett Jr. in this generation yet. Like Nick is, I think, probably the closest to doing that at the moment. But he's getting a lot of attention now as far as like players playing against him. So now he's having to reinvest his game and do different things and different styles. And there's not someone who you look at the Brownlow and you go, I mean, this is a shoe, and like he's going to win it.
Well, Paddy Cripps has won 2 Brownlows, but I don't think it's obvious to say he's the face. Lockie Neal's won a couple, but no one says he's the face of the league.
Exactly.
Nick's probably a obvious one, quote unquote. He's got he's a gun player. He's at a big club, famous name, premiership player.
It's all part of the storyline that builds, right? I mean, Gary Ablett, obviously dad, famous player. Dusty, a bit of like a recluse. We weren't really sure like what stories and like, would come from it and like what he would say and never really talked much. And
finals player as well.
Huge.
Big game performer.
He's the best finals player I think that's ever played.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a crazy statement to say whatsoever. You look at the stats, it's like, holy smokes, that is impressive.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what made his aura even better. It was like he'd get up and he'd win the Norm Smith and he'd go, yeah, cool, thanks for all the support, fans. Yeah, go Tigers. Yeah. It was like he didn't give much. We're all like, you were the best players to ever play this game, man. Like show like us who you are, kind of personality wise. But if he's not comfortable doing it, then you have to respect that.
I reckon Harley Reid screams finals player eventually when it happens.
Yeah.
He screams finals. But I think you have to walk down a street and get swarmed by absolute nuffies. If you're not doing that, then you can't be the face of the league.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a list of probably about 10 that are, I guess not fighting, but like
in like the top tier of
tier of like recognizable figures. I think in Australia.
Yeah.
Paddy Dangerfield being the head of the AFL Players Association always was kind of one of those people of that generation, along with Scott Pendlebury and these kind of people. And then now Darcy Moore is the head of the AFLPA, so maybe he's kind of becoming that next kind of image of the players in a sense of representing them, and that probably will help him boost. But I think it's up for grabs, as we like to say. And there's probably 5 to 10 people that are really vibing as far as trying to figure it out. And there's this new the new fund that the AFL has kind of just put in, I want to say, to the CBA, where they are now paying players more money to be able to use their image to help promote the brand of AFL.
Yeah.
Which I think will also show exactly, depending on who they choose, is who's going to be the actual face of the league.
Well, I'm curious now. Actually, I should have checked this, but I want to see the social media following, Instagram followers of.
See Bailey Smith probably be number one.
What do you reckon Nick has?
If I were to take Instagram,
followers, I'm going Insta. Yeah,
Insta. I'll go 176.
276.
276. Nick Dacos.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't post much though. I'll give it to him.
All right, Bailey Smith.
We'll go 325.
373 is 100k more, just about. That's pretty significant.
Buddy was like the most followed, I want to say,
probably
on Insta, and obviously he's kind of doing his own thing now. But as retired, but he was kind of, I think, the face of AFL for a while in that sense. Obviously, kicking 1,000 goals was incredible, and just a great story within it. And then he kind of created a lot of what Sydney was known for a long time. Whenever he got traded up there, and their success, right? Yeah, he was the face of that.
I think it's currently Nick. But if Bailey Smith does, because he has claims now as well, but if he wins the Brownlow this year, which I reckon is the hot favourite.
Nick?
No, Bailey Smith.
Bailey.
Then I reckon he becomes the face of the league by the end of 2025. Yeah.
Well, if Nick wins the Brownlow, I'll be asking for a few jumpers signed by him.
Yes, that'll be worth a lot.
Yeah.
Greg Swann. So Andrew Dillon split the AFL footy department during the week, Coxy. So the leadership functions in the footy department. So it's now in 2 as part of a little restructure there at AFL HQ. So Brisbane CEO Greg Swann has been announced as the AFL's new GM of footy performance. So he'll oversee things such as the MRO, laws of the game, umpiring, player movement and things like that. Whereas Laura Kane's now in charge of the administrative stuff and footy operations for AFL, AFLW, VFL and VFLW.
So what they've done is they've taken Lauren Kane's job and kind of
to split it into 2,
split it up and give some responsibility.
The footy department now has performance and operations instead of all lumped into one. What should Swan's priority be when he gets into the role in July? I think it's July.
He's going to be straight into the firing line, I'll tell you that.
What's he got to fix?
There's a lot of things. I mean, I think the clarity of umpire communication between the league and umpires and the understanding of that. I would love, and I think I've said this before, is I would love for them to have someone who, whenever there is a bit of a question mark around how something is adjudicated, or like a Schultz incident in Perth, things like that, there's a face that the AFL puts out there to say, this is what's correct, this is what's not, this is how we're going to look at things going forward.
Well, that was just a miscommunication issue in the end as well.
It was, but I mean, like, who was the one that answered for that? Like, there was not like a face that came out into the media and said, hey, this is kind of a press conference from the week, this is what happened, this is kind of where we're messed up, or this is our lessons that we learned, and this is the way we're going to go forward.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a key voice that people can go to for direction from the league. And maybe that's him. Maybe it's someone that's the head of umpiring. I'm not sure. But I think that's one. The MRO, that's another issue that people are going to always have an
MRO is the big one for
experience
me.
from.
We can't go into 2026 with the same matrix system that we've got right now. I mean, that's a joke.
Yeah. I
not to reheat old soup, because we've spoken about it this year, but that grading system doesn't work.
I mean, I look at Lloyd Meek, who knocked Paddy Lipinski into a concussion.
Yes. Football action now. Which it wasn't a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it used to be if you had a concussion, you essentially got suspended, but it's been changed within the season to be differently adjudicated, which I found kind of weird. So I think just clarity. Like, I think everyone just wants clarity. And it's not, I understand it sounds very easy to do, like just to say, hey, clarity, like no big deal. And I understand there's a lot of things that go into that. But as a fan, as a player, even as coaches, everyone that's involved, I think we just want a direction that is clear. Sometimes we will not agree with it. And that is okay. That is understandable. Like, there's never going to be a perfect solution to everything. But I think we just want a direction that is very clear, that everyone understands, and that we can stick to and doesn't vary whenever the season keeps going.
Clarity is a really good word to use because, and Alex Pearce is another example, because he got let off last week when he was handed 3 weeks by the MRO, but it was deemed a football action and therefore not sanctionable by the AFL tribunal. But again, at the start of the season, it's definitely 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We're in this sticky situation with the current system where it has to be 0 or 3, and it's only 3 because of the outcome, because of the seriousness of concussion and the lawsuit hanging over the league's head. I get why they're doing it, but they finally admitted last week by letting Pearce off that common sense is allowed.
Yeah.
Accidents are allowed to happen in a contact sport. But with the clarity point that you make, it'd be great for Greg Swann to come out and just say, no, because it seems like the AFL have sort of changed the rules now. They just haven't told us that in an official statement, publicly at least. So if Greg Swann gets in there and goes...
we find out based on after the fact of it happening, right?
Yeah, come out and say, look, these are why they were let off. We're going to change it. This is a football action. These aren't. That's what's going to happen for the rest of the season. I know... Maybe some people will say you lose a little bit of integrity because you're changing the rules as the season goes, but I think game's better for it if he does come out and make those clarifications, as you said.
Exactly. It's better for the long run for everyone to be on the same page. You can disagree with it one week and
it's
agree with it the next week, but like as long as that doesn't change and there's clear vision of what the future looks like, then everyone should be going, you know what, I can agree, I can disagree, but at least I know exactly where I stand.
There's a few rules as well, I reckon, that need some tweaking.
Oh, man.
Insufficient intent, holding the ball, no one knows
how that works.
Can we change
the ruck rule? I mean, you can't even, it's just essentially a ball up now. There's no one that actually
Why
jumps.
are you so big on the ruck rule, I wonder?
Because I'm a ruckman who has
right.
practiced like the center bounce jump for 11 years, and all of a sudden the AFL is now going to just pretty much take it away.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's frustrating, I think, as a player whenever you have like such a big part of your game that just all of a sudden from one rule change, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, that's null and void now.
I reckon, did you mention this on or off camera? I reckon you mentioned once like regulation ground sizes. Because we have sizes that are completely different, right? Like, have you been to Norwood?
No.
No.
I play for Collingwood, mate, so we don't. No, I haven't.
Have you been? Not have you played? Have you been?
We don't do away games. No, that's not really.
You guys are in trouble.
No, we don't. We went to Marvel a few weeks ago. Calm down.
Yeah.
No, I haven't been in Norwood, but I think there is. I mean, like the vast difference between Adelaide Oval and how skinny it is. You play it differently as a team. Than you would the MCG.
Do you think the AFL needs the same size grounds for every stadium, or is it just a part of what makes the AFL good? Just that it's always different.
I don't think you can change like Adelaide Oval, right? Like to make it the size of the MCG, I don't think physically you'd have to construct something else. So I think it does make the game unique, and I do love certain little aspects that make the quirkiness of AFL. Like I hated whenever they brought in you had to stand on the mark, and like for set shots and stuff, you couldn't do the psych out and do all this kind of funny stuff because it was so unique. That's what it was, though, wasn't it? You had guys doing handstands in the background. You had someone trying to like throw grass at them. Like,
is it basketball? The movie?
Yes, it was like basketball. Yeah, and I remember I first I came here, I saw it. I was like, that's hilarious. Like that's
so good.
From a game that I watch of AFL, that's one of the main things I remembered.
Yeah.
It was like the stupid bounce in the middle that was like, what is going on here? The
psych
catapult
outs.
over the shoulder to throw it in. Like that was the most efficient way of doing things. And then the psych out on the mark. And I was just like, this is the weirdest game I've ever seen in my life. But I was intrigued. Like it made me interested, right? So I think that's part of the, I guess, and it also is part of the history, I think, of some of the teams that have the ovals that have been the same size for a long time. I do think you should probably just keep those as is because I don't think physically you'll be able to change some of the
keeps it
stadiums that are
unique,
out
keeps
there.
it interesting, I guess.
Yeah, it does. Maybe in the future sometime.
What would your go-to psych out be?
What would my go-to psych out? I already have one. I think BT calls it the Jack in the Box.
Oh, you
where
crouch
it's like
down
you
and
crouch
jump
down.
up.
And I actually have talked to players, and they're
Does it
like,
affect
it
them?
actually scares the shit out of me.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, every time I was sitting there and I'll be like, lining up and I kind of do my steps and everything else in my head. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I see you and it's like you go from like me not thinking about you really because you're just kind of like just chilling there looking like you're hunched over on your knees. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you just like jump up and you're like, oh snap, am I half a step too close? I know you've got the data people here. Can you maybe get them to figure out what's the percentage of missed set shots if I stand the mark?
That's a great query.
Can you
I'm going to run that by champion data.
It just takes a few. I mean, it'll take an insane amount of time to go through the vision, but I think it would be a great fact that most people wouldn't realize.
Yes, we're going to check that. We're going to come back next week and give you the answer.
I am excited for that. Premier data?
Was that champion data?
Champion data, sorry. Yeah.
Was that always your... I'm going to call it a psych out because you're calling it a psych out. I don't know what else to call it.
I don't know what else would it be. I don't know. It's a psych out.
Was that before the stand rule? Were you doing it at the same time?
I used to run up to the mark and then do it.
Yeah.
So you could.
That's even
scarier,
scarier,
right? That's like a big dude running towards you and you're going,
yeah, that's like, 213 centimeters.
Thanks, appreciate that. 212,
is that it?
But we'll take the extra.
212. Okay, sorry. Yeah, giving you extra credit.
But I think like even I'll never forget 2018 grand final. I was standing in the mark and Dom sheet in the corner, and the umpire told me I couldn't do that. He said you had to stand. I don't know why. But it was something I'll never forget. He was like, make sure you don't move. Make sure you don't go over the mark.
Confirmed. June 4, 2025, 4:38 p.m. Mason Cox, Collingwood robbed in the 2018 grand final because not being able to run towards the mark. Is that what you're telling me?
I think we're robbed in a few ways. I think Braden Maynard might have something to say about that being robbed. I'm not really sure. True. A few interesting calls, but anyway, I digress.
Let's move on. Big Freeze 11, as we said.
Yes, it is Big Freeze, the cap beanie. Shout out to
yes.
To
I forgot mine. I have bought one. I have got it. I just didn't bring it.
I was really guilt tripping you on the way here.
You were. You were letting me know.
Like, have you not been to Coles or Bunnings yet?
No.
You can get them at your Coles and Bunnings shops wherever you may shop.
Well, I bought mine at Coles.
Yeah.
But I do have it.
How cool is it though? I mean,
they're awesome. Great tradition.
It is one of the most wholesome things in Australian sport, I think, that I've ever seen. In sport internationally, really. Just how people have jumped onto this cause. And I will say as a player, there is nothing that, like, I'm getting like goosebumps now. There's nothing like gets you like so emotional seeing like Neil there, seeing 100,000 people with like blue beanies on their head, every single person in the crowd buying them. And knowing that money goes to such an incredible cause and someone who is just fighting so hard with every ounce that he has to be able to try to fight this beast. It is an incredible thing. And shout out to him for getting Australian of the Year.
Yep.
Awesome accomplishment and something that was well-deserved, I think well overdue. For the amount of money he's raised, millions and millions of dollars for the cause. It's pretty incredible and something that I think as a player who's been involved for 11 years now, I've been here every single Big Freeze. It keeps getting bigger and better every single year. And it's a credit to the people that run the foundation, and it's a credit to Neil and his family who continue to push the initiative.
Well, Kings and Queens birthday games were always massive, but this has just added another important element to it. It's just great to see what Neil has done for Fight MND in Australia and the footy public as well. It is. It's awesome. I mean, as a player, seeing the blue beanies in the stands, as you said, it must be a nice little feeling because it is for fans as well. When you see it as a fan wearing the beanie and seeing everyone else do it, 80,000 people wearing the same thing. It's a pretty cool moment,
isn't it? It's kind of mob mentality for a good cause.
One of the bigger games on the AFL calendar now, which is absolutely fantastic. But we are going to look back at some of the better moments, the better costumes that we've picked out.
The ranking. Here we go.
So
okay,
give me your favourites.
I can't go past. So I'll go like lower. I'll finish on my favorite Because I think there's someone that just stands out. Who
I mean, we can't rank all of them because it's like
the best.
What, like
We'll say our favorites.
10 people in 11 years. We're not gonna. Yeah.
I'll go. I gotta give credit to people who've really gone the extra mile to dress up, right?
Yeah.
So I've got Tony Shaw's Beetlejuice.
A lot of effort.
Full effort.
Yeah.
Full like face paint, everything. Another person with face paint, Liam Pickin, who is Joker. Very good. A lot of effort into that.
If you're putting face paint on, I'll tip my hat.
Yeah.
That's outstanding effort.
That's awesome. Female Sarah Jones, Mary Poppins.
Yes.
That was good. I loved the little umbrella as she went down. You thought she might have floated out and missed the actual ice bath. Nick Nat Nui, Jamaican bobsled team from Cool Runnings. That was the coolest outfit. One of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. That was awesome to see him there. I've got a few more, but I'm going to let you jump in here and tell a few.
Well, I know you've got your... I think I know what your favourite is, so I'll let you take that. I just want to shout out a couple of coaches. Yeah. Remember the year where all the coaches did it?
Yeah, awesome.
So... Chris Fagan tore his hammy. He went down as a priest, which is just... It's funny. I feel for the bloke.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's recovered by now. But going down the ice bath and then tearing your hammy, it's not what you expect.
I don't know how you tear a hamstring going down a slide.
I think it was when he got out of the actual water and like slipped or something.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, anyway, it's a highlight for good and bad reasons. And Luke Beveridge, probably the coolest slider of all time, going down in like the surfing stance instead of on his backside. That takes guts.
Also,
that takes guts.
I would completely bust it if I tried to just surf down that thing, because it's not a straight slide. It's actually got waves to it. Yeah, so to actually surf it down is pretty impressive. Yeah. I don't think it gets enough credit.
Yeah, I think he shoulder dived into the water as well, which made it even cooler.
Yeah, bit of experience.
That one was very good. I think you liked your former coach Nathan Buckley's little touch to the firefighter. Talk us through that one.
So Murray Swinton, who was coming to the club, who was fighting M&D at the time, and had an incredible story. Was a mad Collingwood fan. Had all the newspaper clippings in a book, and like just one of those just diehard fans that bled black and white. And really wholesome story to have him and his family in there and have him there for the whole year. And Nathan Buckley he was a firefighter, and Nathan Buckley dressed up as a firefighter and actually wore his helmet down the slide, which obviously being a coach on the day and having that connection to someone who was part of the inner circle, I think, for that year and those weeks with him in D round. It was a very lovely and beautiful touch. I think that the family really appreciated and was very meaningful for them.
Yep. Do you have a number one favorite?
I do.
Overall,
I do have a number one favorite.
Who takes it out?
Nick Rewalt. Nick Rewalt as Freddie Mercury. I honestly don't think you would have been able to tell the two. He played the part well. Hit it up. He played the part so well.
Yeah.
He didn't just get up there and say, "Hey guys, I'm going down the sideboard." Nah, he did a full rendition of like him belting out a song. I feel like at the top of the slide, he got into it. And I feel like he kind of was one of the first people that really dove into character and made it cool to like give a bit of a show there, right? Yeah. And I gotta give him credit because it's gotta be a nerve-wracking thing to rock out and be like, hopefully people get who I am. Hopefully people understand what I'm doing. And hopefully it's funny enough that people jump on. And I will never forget the day. It was incredible, and credit to him, props to him for acting the part and absolutely nailing it. That's the one I think that sticks out more than any other slider to myself.
The mustache suits him.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, he wore that. Great. I mean, look, Nick's got some style. He wore the all black kind of like suit the other day with the trench coat, or whatever you call it, the pea coat, and the turtleneck. Man, I was like, this guy knows what's up. He copped a little bit of criticism, I'll say, but I think, hey, if Nick, I know you're probably watching. No, I know you're listening, Nick, 100%.
Yep, biggest listener.
Keep it up, mate. I'm a big fan of it.
Almost time to wrap it up. Don't be surprised if we've got two each today. So let me kick it off. Don't be surprised if the D's stop selling their home games to the NT. It's 3 in a row that they've lost there now. They've played there 11 times in Alice Springs for only 4 wins. Lost their last 3, as I said. You're not guaranteed a win if you're keeping a game at the MCG. And I get the business realities and the commercial and the community benefits of selling a home game, but they returned a $1.7 million profit last year, and they've been debt-free for 4 years now. So I think there comes a time where you have to prioritise 4 points over the cash injection that they might get from the NT when they've got record memberships as well in the past couple of seasons as well. So I think it's about time they stop jeopardising their position on the ladder.
Yeah, can understand that. Shout out to North Melbourne for doing it this week.
Bunbury.
Bunbury.
Yeah.
For just selling games left, right, and center. You do want to prioritize it. I think what the AFL needs to do is if they do end up doing that, they need to have someone to replace that.
Yep.
I would love to have Dreamtime at Alice Springs. Uluru would be incredible. Somewhere in that kind of center of Australia would be absolutely insane. I think that would be
awesome occasion. That would be.
It'd be incredible, and I think a lot of people would just if you put the money and an investment into it, I think it would be an incredibly special experience for everyone on the field, everyone else there in the community, and I think it'd be an amazing platform to be able to promote Indigenous society there and everything that goes on and. Yeah, it'd be interesting. There are teams that do this, but it becomes a cost-benefit analysis of if we're on that verge of maybe being around the 8, do we sell one or do we kind of take the MCG home game? Don't know. You got to find the right kind of mix, but
I don't think they have the right mix. But
okay,
trust me.
I just want someone to play.
Yeah,
in Northern Territory.
That's
all I care about.
That's fine. Yeah.
Someone has to play there and has to fill.
Well, Gold Coast does, and they do well there.
Yeah, they do very well. All right, so don't be surprised. I got the Hawks are going to lose 4 in a row this week. It's going to be their 4th loss in a row. There was a lot of people on Hawk ball early that have jumped off this train. I still think they're a very good team.
I still think they'll be okay.
I think they'll be fine, but they've got a tough little 2 or 3 game run coming up that's going to test them.
Yeah. Well, that Gold Coast, Brisbane, Collingwood, Bulldogs this week, and then Adelaide next week. So talk about a litmus test.
It's definitely going to test their confidence. I think we played really well over them against them over the weekend, and it's going to be a real interesting sight to see kind of how they go against the Bulldogs.
Yep.
But it's gonna really test them as far as finals. I think a lot of people are going, are they a finals team? Are they going to be able to stack up whenever the pressure's on? And these are opportunities to be able to prove that. So it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Yep. Couple of other contenders here. Don't be surprised if the Crows and the Cats finish 1 and 2 at the end of the season.
Hey,
no offense,
man. I'm sitting right here.
Let me explain it. I don't show any bias. Right now, the Cats, 11 games left. 8 of them are against teams lower than them on the ladder. They've got Richmond twice, and 2 of the 3 teams above them on the ladder, they play at Alphabet Stadium. So
the Alphabet Stadium,
they're gonna be in a really good position to finish in the top 2, and the Crows as well. So they've got a tough next couple of games, Brisbane and Hawthorn, but they've got 6 home games remaining. If you give them those, and then 3 of the 5 away games against the bottom 3 teams, that gives them 17 wins. And 17 wins in previous seasons. Last year, you're finishing on top. The year before, you're finishing second. There was 1 game less in 2022, but 16 wins then got you second. In 2021, you would have finished second. 2019 was on top. And 2018, 16 wins got you second. So I think the Crows are in a good position to strike as well.
Yeah, I mean, they've really, I think, been not necessarily surprised. I think everyone's always known Adelaide's a very good team. But,
well, like the best bottom 4 team in history last year. The percentage was like high 90s.
Yeah, so I think they've always had this spark about them, and everyone's known that they have the ability. And this year, you're really seeing them kind of be able to put everything together and see the bricks kind of form into a solid foundation. And it's I don't want to say one of them are 1 or 2 because obviously I'll play for a different team. I do think one of them will
Fixture difficulty matters.
Yes, I do think that they have a great kind of run for the rest of the year. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, I'm always going to back in our team, so I can agree to disagree.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Have you got another one?
I've got one.
Finish us off.
This might be a weekly thing because we've talked about this multiple times, and it's a bit of crowd watch.
Sometimes it hasn't made the podcast.
It's been a bit of prequel to the podcast of crowd watch.
Yes.
How many people are there at the GWS game over the weekend?
9,000 last week.
9,000. Big 9K. And
huge.
I think we're going to have to
I
do
called
this,
that, by
right?
the way. I called that last week.
You did. I think we're going to have a crowd watch, and it's going to be over-under 10K every week.
So
and I think they're playing in Canberra this week, and you just told me before we got on that it's going to be raining.
It doesn't look good, the forecast.
On Saturday.
It's as good as Melbourne.
So if we're going over-unders on 10K at the game, I'm going to go unders this week.
Yeah.
On 10K audience at GWS.
They don't play there often, though, so the people of Canberra might just get around it because they don't get to see the footy too often.
How much cover is there at the stadium?
I've never been, so I couldn't tell you.
That's probably the biggest question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think there'd be a ton, but I'm going to go under this week. I don't know if are you going to go overs?
Yeah,
Over 10K.
I actually
You're going
will.
over 10K.
I actually will, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have an update next week. We'll
Yeah.
get confirmation if it's over or under, but we're going to have a 10K watch.
We'll put a slab on it. A
GWS's
slab of
audience.
water. We'll put a slab of water on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Slab of water.
For the winner. I reckon I'll crack 10. But
I
we
think
will,
we'll be
we will
just
watch
under.
this moving forward.
The early nines, I'll say.
All right. Good
Yeah.
prediction. We'll leave it there. I think that's time. Good Ep. Thanks for coming in
Solid.
again.
No, always. Thanks
And
for
good
having
luck
me.
this weekend. Big occasion, as I said. It's
Yeah.
always one to look forward to. So good luck to you. And I'll speak to you next week. I think you're on a bye, aren't you?
Hey, I'll be in Byron Bay or the Gold Coast.
We'll get you on the computer.
But
We'll do it.
we'll
do
do
it
it
online.
virtually. We'll do it through the beauty of the interweb.
We will. To everyone listening or watching, get your tips in, enjoy the footy, all that sort of stuff. And we'll speak to you next time.
Buy your beanies. Buy your beanies at
buy
Coles or Bunnings.
beanies too.